All right, we're live, folks. Come on in, folks. A lot to talk about. We have airport chaos around the country, and we're going to talk about it because today is the start of the flight cuts nationwide at 40 plus airports, the FAA announced. And this is causing huge backups that are already starting at numerous airports around the country. And it could get much, much worse. The situation's already been worse as it is the last couple of weeks because of the government shutdown with the flights delayed, grounded, long lines at airports. And images are starting to come out and feeds are starting to come up at these airports. So we're going to talk about what's going on. Holy smokes, folks. It could get much, much worse here because I would say doing the numbers, 10% of flights at 40 of the U.S. airports, you do the numbers there, and a lot of airports are affected. Major airports like Atlanta, Philadelphia, New York City, all across the country. To me, it totals about 2,000 flights. 2,000 flights that have been officially canceled today. 2,000 flights. And this will be every single day. And it's quite possible if this government shutdown continues that they'll keep cutting more and more flights. So this 10% could turn into another 10% possibly next week or the week after if this government shutdown continues. Chaos at the airports, folks. Long lines, as we discussed. There has been some wait lines at some international airports. Like Philadelphia right now is like at a 2-hour wait line to just get through TSA. Houston the other day was 6 hours. Who's at fault here, folks? Who's at fault? We got problems. 10% of the flights that are being reduced at 40 airports, it technically comes out to 4% of all domestic flights. Now, around the world, I've been reading, they do about 100,000 flights a day. 4%, I don't know how much that would affect the United States of America, but the math shows me at least 2,000 flights in this country that are being affected because of this government shutdown. Chaos. And the vice president of the United States even warned about this. And we got different feeds going up. You could see, looks pretty calm here. I think this is Newark Liberty Airport. I think this is Newark, New Jersey. I believe Newark Liberty International Airport. Or no, this is ATL. Look, ATL. Top says ATL. Feeds to different locations. At the top, it says ATL, but the AP had it Liberty. So what they're doing is they're putting different feeds at different airports because we want to see what happens. This is the busiest airport. This is the busiest airport in the country. This airport here itself averages 200 or 2,500 flights a day at Hartsfield. 2,500 flights a day. So if you, and this is on the list of the 40 airports, so that's 250 flights right here alone at this airport that have been canceled every day moving forward. It's a big deal, folks, because considering, we have a holiday season coming up, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and all in between. These are starting to become the most busiest travel months of the year into end of November, all the way into Christmas and even into New Year's. And it's crazy because J.D. Vance, the vice president of the United States, actually spoke about this. And Duffy, the transportation secretary, he did a press conference 2 days ago about this situation. There's finger pointing. Of course, Republicans are going to blame the Democrats. The Democrats are going to blame Republicans. People pointing fingers. Everyone's pointing fingers. J.D. Vance put out yesterday and actually spoke and said what the Democrats are doing on the government shutdown is genuinely unprecedented. And while the administration has shielded the American people from the worst of the consequences, all of this is coming and soon. an aviation emergency, he says, that will lead to significant travel delays for all Americans. So that's the number one thing that J.D. Vance said that this shutdown is going to cause, an aviation emergency. That's what he called it. And then he says food stamps and other assistance programs running out for the needy Americans. Great strains on our military and national security.
Frontier. But so I don't have any kind of B-roll or anything except I got a shot of the
Let's listen to the Fox 5 report. Give his take on what's going on.
We got to do one more live shot real quick for Seattle. How long did you say they wanted this?
They didn't say, but it happens all the time. They just walked away and left us. What? I don't know. They haven't said anything to me, so I assume. Hi there. How you doing? Wonderful. Wonderful. It's a Friday, and we're almost done with our day. Okay.
Yeah, we have big problems, folks. Big problems coming. It's already here.
It's tyke nurse, like a small child, a tyke, and then ner. No, you got it. No worries. But it's the easiest way to do it, isn't it?
Like strike without the heart.
Yeah, that would be too hard. Like a little tyke, a small child, a tyke. That's what you guys asked for. That's what I'll do. Whatever you want. No worries. You got a kick out of that.
I'm assuming that he's going to give some sort of update on his report.
Okay, sounds good.
Are you supposed to describe it to him?
I've done it before, so it's
I'm sure it comes natural.
Let's hear what you have to say.
no worries. Thank you.
10% of the flights have been cut. and more cuts are possibly expected the longer this government shutdown continues. Right when it comes into the busiest travel day of the year, people are going to have to change plans here.
Well, first, welcome to the world's busiest airport, Hartsfield, Jackson. You know, there's an old saying here in the South, whether you go into heaven or hell, you have to change planes in Atlanta. So it wasn't really a surprise that we were on that list of 40 airports that are impacted by this flight reduction. The situation this morning has been, we have 78 cancellations here in Atlanta. Of those, 39 are flights coming to, 39 are flights going out. We also have 40 different flights that have been delayed, including one that is coming here from SeaTac. No flights, however, heading to Seattle have been impacted out of Atlanta, but the main security checkpoint, as you can see, is moving fine. Delta, which is the home of Delta, says it's canceling about 170 flights system-wide. Most of those seem to be going to small regional cities here in the South. They've been the ones that have been impacted, and they tried to reach out to people as much as they could so that they wouldn't come here to the airport only to be turned away. Well, we've talked to some passengers that actually had to rebook their flights to try to get out quickly and to see if they could get around all of this. We also talked with one woman. She was trying to get to Columbia, and she had a flight that was down to Miami, and unfortunately her flight to Miami got canceled. She was stuck. She didn't know what she was going to do. She was thinking of actually hopping on a bus and taking a bus all the way down to Florida. That's like a 10, 12, at least hour bus ride, just so she could hope to find a flight to get herself home. Gives you an idea how much this can really impact folks. Well, the main thing they're telling him is to call ahead. Make sure you check with your carrier to see if your flight is in fact going or if it has any delays. Also telling people to get here a little early, although I got to be honest with you, the checkpoint lines have been great all day long. There hasn't been the type that we can see. We sometimes see these checkpoint lines that can stretch half hour, 45 minutes, an hour plus, sometimes even up to 2 hours on bad situations. Right now, looking at it, it's probably less than 5 minutes to get through the security.
All right, so he's in Atlanta.
Sure.
All righty.
All right, that's his report. So it looks like Atlanta could be okay right now. We got different locations here. This is the AP. This is Newark Liberty Airport, and it's pretty packed there right now. Folks, I want to share what's going on because this is going to, I believe, get much, much worse than it already is. Might seem calm there at Atlanta right now, but flights are being delayed and canceled. We have major issues here. Hundreds of flights canceled as FAA reductions take effect. Dozens of airports around the country will see fewer flights amid staff shortages as the government shutdown drags on. And it might be also the calm because no one is there. Could be the calm because no one is there. Now, it looks pretty busy here at Newark Liberty Airport in Newark. The issues are there's lots. It's major issues. One, TSA. So as we shared the other day, when there was a line all the way out the door at Bush in Houston, it was because of the TSA shortages, right? So they're saying that 50,000 TSA agents are working without pay right now, and a lot of them are starting to, call off sick, not come. In Houston, they had like at the airport there, Bush Airport, it's like 5 TSA checkpoints. Well, at one point, a couple days ago, they were only operating 2 of the 5, which resulted in these lines that stretched outside the building. TSA is one of the issues. So some of these airports that normally have like TSA checkpoints, usually in the major airlines, when you go get your ticket from your airline. You got signs that'll take you, the TSA checkpoint. A lot of these bigger airports have 3 to 5 different TSA checkpoints that you have to go through. Well, many of these airports now are starting to cut them and funneling people to just one TSA area, which is resulting in a lot of long lines. So you got the TSA issue. You got the air traffic control issue. There's 13,000 air traffic controllers that are working without pay. And these airports, these smaller airports, are getting affected with the way, the flight delays and cancellations because of limited staffing. Now, the FAA just announced 10% reduction at 40 of the airports. So I can read you the list of 40 that are affected here. Sucks because I'm from Tampa, and Tampa is on that list. I'll get the list. Hold on. Let me get the list here and share with you exactly the airports that are affected here with this situation. I think this is the calm before the storm, or it's just going to mount on. I don't think this can sustain itself. I really don't think so. I don't, unless people stop traveling, which will, could affect the economy. A lot of these people are not just travelers because of holidays and vacations, but a lot of business travelers. A lot of business travelers that rely on going back and forth to cities. I looked just out of general curiosity. I looked flights, the prices, because if you squeeze out the number of flights, the demand means the cost of flights are going to start going up. I was already looking out at Tampa, and I was looking at like JFK and from Tampa to New York City, Tampa to Chicago. And now you're starting to get a couple days out, $500 flights one way, which would normally only be like $100 to $150. You're starting to go up in price. Now, that could be a combination also with the demand for travel for the holiday season. But I think flights are going to go up because that's going to be the airline's opportunity. They're going to want to make their money. They're going to be like, okay, well, we're going to reduce. We have to reduce because the FAA is telling us to reduce 10% of our flights at these airports, which is going to affect most of the airline. They're going to say, we're going to find ways to make money off this. And the other flights that are scheduled, they're just going to jack up the prices. And people are going to start buying them up. These are some of the airports that are affected with the situation, folks. Anchorage, Atlanta, Boston, Baltimore, Charlotte, Cincinnati, Dallas, Reagan in Washington, D.C., Denver, Dallas, Detroit, Newark Liberty right here. This location, Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood, Florida, Honolulu, Houston, Washington Dulles, George Bush in Houston, Indianapolis, JFK in New York City, Harry Reid Airport in Vegas. Oh boy, Vegas, Los Angeles, LaGuardia, Orlando. I mean, everyone goes to Orlando for Disney, right? Chicago Midway, Memphis, Miami, Minneapolis, Oakland, outside Los Angeles, Ontario, Chicago O'Hare. So both airports in Chicago, both airports in New York City, Portland, Philadelphia, Phoenix, San Diego, Louisville, Seattle, San Francisco, Teterboro, New Jersey, Salt Lake City, Tampa. Those are the 40 airports that are affected by this reduction. That is a lot. If you do the math and just Google around, like I did a kind of like my own assessment, I come up with 2,000 flights. Because if you got Atlanta itself that has 2,500 and they're saying 10% at the airports, that's 250 flights that could be affected there. Just at Atlanta alone. Now, the guy there on the thing was saying about 100 or something or so, but I think it's a little bit higher. And then you got each and every airport. Do the math. A lot of those airports average out 500, 600, 700 flights a day. Well, you do 10% of the flights, 50 flights per airport. It adds up. The numbers add up. The numbers add up well over 1,000. I'm coming up to about 2,000 flights here. But that's not on top of the other flights that have already been canceled because of the situation without this cut. Government will not reopen, in my opinion, Peggy says. Peggy, I could come up with my theories with that, but I want to concur with you on that. I think everyone has dug their heels in deep here. And as much as they're saying, hey, let's open up the government, let's have the filibuster, let's get rid of the filibuster, let's open it up, both sides. At the same time, I don't see any, I see both of them stuck in their ways. And I think personally, this is designed to never open. How's this going to open? Or maybe it's a whole design to bring us back to limited the government, take us back to state rights and sort of deal. We going a little bit off to the deep end here, but what's happening here, folks? Is this the beginning stages of more chaos, or is the government going to open and everything's going to get back to normal? Thousands of flights have been canceled as reductions take effect at 40 high traffic airports. And what officials say is an attempt to relieve pressure amid the record-long government shutdown. Federal Aviation Administrator Brian Bedford has said that the unprecedented move is the result of fatigue plaguing air traffic controllers who have been working without pay since the start of the government shutdown, now in its second month. Check this out. The FAA mandated flight cancellations means 4% reduction in operations today. It will ramp up to 6% by November 11th, 8% by November 13th, and 10% by November 14th. Once it hits the 10%, it will affect 4,400 flights per day. Actually, it's more than the 2,000 I said. 4,400 flights per day. They have a whole, the whole FAA and the airports, they have this system with the scheduled flights and everything like that. It's normally the same, right? Most cities and airports have the same schedule that almost goes on every single day. Coming in, coming out, and of course they have to deal with delays on certain issues, whatever like that, but it all irons itself out. But they have a schedule. The flights, the airlines set prices based off all these schedules and everything like that. But now everything has been disrupted. Everything has been disrupted. You're going to have to get rid of 10% of the flights there. It's going to cause madness. It's going to cause lines. It's going to cause airlines to go up in prices. Are they trying to prevent people from traveling? Concern as flight cancellations increase as Thanksgiving approaches. Stress on the entire air traffic control system has amped up during the shutdown as those on the front lines, like air traffic controllers, are working without pay. And those behind the scenes, like the National Weather Service workers and cybersecurity units, are furloughed and therefore not working on providing support. Cutting flights to address overworked employees is common in this kind of situation, but it also means people will face delays not only in travel, but in items being shipped by air, like packages and medications. Don't forget the plane crash, which they feel is unrelated to the situation, but we had a major plane crash that happened because of all this. We've had, there's been numerous different little things that have been happening since this government shutdown. One, smaller planes have crashed around the country, and some have said it's because of less air traffic control, less safety, just putting people up in the air, whatever. We've had incidents of planes hitting each other on the runway. We've had incidents of bomb threats that have been put on planes, too, in just the last couple of days. Major plane crash, UPS, delays. cancellations. Now, if there's any good news out of this, if you really need to go somewhere, gas is pretty cheap. Gas is pretty cheap right now. Gas is cheap. It's cheaper. If you got to go 1,000 miles and travel for the holidays, if this government shut down, I would strongly suggest getting in your vehicle and just traveling with your car this year. Seriously. I don't know what the gas prices. It's still high, right? It's still high, but it's the gas prices seem like out of this whole shutdown, this whole situation with this gas prices, though, seems like the only thing that's going down nowadays. But also air traffic controllers, not there. It risks people life, safety. Don't forget terrorists. And there was a crazy incident that just happened last week in Atlanta where a guy was about to commit a mass shooting at the airport. Imagine if that happened amid all this chaos. There was a guy that actually arrived to the airport with an assault rifle, and he was going to shoot up the airport, according to his family. He called his family, and they arrested him. We shared it. It's crazy. Come on in, folks. It is pretty packed here at Newark Liberty Airport. Airports are normally packed anyway. The topic this morning's live is airport delays, cancellations, reduction in flights. 2 hours ago, NBC News, delays at airports due to staffing preceded reduction. Ronald Reagan Airport in Washington, D.C. area is averaging 115-minute delays, or around 2 hours. They're also saying here at New York Liberty Airport in New York City, last night was averaging delays of 206-minute delays here at this airport. So a lot of these people here have probably been waiting for hours and hours and hours, 206 minutes. It's almost 4 hours. It's almost 4 hours, folks. People here at Liberty have been waiting 4 hours last night. I don't think roads are crazy. The President of the United States just put out a Truth Social post. Republicans terminate the filibuster and bring back the American dream. If you don't do it, the Dems will, and you'll never see office again. Terminate the filibuster, get the government back open. I also believe that this government shutdown could be the 2020 version of COVID, in a sense of just creating more divide in this country, as it already is. We're like really seriously divided so badly in this country, and everyone's finger pointing, blaming all sides, right? I actually tweeted out an hour ago, and I said the government shutdown is being weaponized to destroy this country, incite the masses, and turn each other against political parties. I think this is our 2020 COVID moment right here with this government shutdown, with the things that are about to happen if this continues to stay shut down. It doesn't get better. No one can say the situation, the government shutdown, is going to be better as it remains shut down. It's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. But I do think this is by design. I do think this is, in a sense, I think both parties have an agenda here, an objective, and maybe it's designed because, Republicans want less government. And again, they want to, doge the entire government itself, using this as an opportunity. And then the Democrats on their side, maybe they just want to allow this to keep happening to get everyone mad and start blaming the Republicans and start pinning, people. That's how I see it. We'll see. We'll see. But in the meantime, all of us suffer. All of us. Now, my position with less government in your life is better, but that's my opinion. but I also enjoy want to go out and travel and do things and, don't want to be affected here because of the situation. Whatever the agenda is, it is not good for the American people. Whatever the agenda is on all sides here, on both sides, collectively, is not good for the American people. Nobody wants to wait 4 hours in line to travel. Both times, both ways, you might as well drive. You might as well drive. Pack your vehicle. You don't have to go through TSA. You don't have to be patted down. I think some of these air traffic controllers are overworked as it is, sleep deprived, overworked, disgruntled because they're not getting paid. You want to do business with somebody that's not being paid? You think they're going to be doing their job the best of their abilities? They're probably disgruntled, mad, ticked off themselves, not paying attention. Like, oh, it's crazy. Government shutdown. Air traffic control staffing problems continue at airports. 1 hour ago, CNN reported the FAA reports staffing problems at 3 facilities this morning. The first, mandatory cuts to flights. The facility handling flights approaching and departing Newark Liberty Airport here. These people here, some of these people have been waiting in line for 3-4 hours, which has seen delays almost every day since the shutdown, is short-staffed until noon today. The Boston Air Traffic Control Center, which handles flights en route at higher altitudes, is understaffed until 11 a.m. this morning. Newark, Boston, Ontario International Airport is affected. There has been reports of 453 staffing problems requiring action since the start of the shutdown. The number is more than 4 times what was seen on the same dates last year. American Airlines Chief Operating Officer has a message for the government. Get the government reopened. Delayed, canceled. There's the list. Canceled, delayed, canceled. Another thing I saw too about United, I'm going to find this, but I saw that United is offering full refunds on anyone that wants to cancel their flight themselves. They're offering full refund. You never get that. Once you pay, you pay. They're not giving you full refunds unless something on their end. But then now they're saying that anyone that books the flight moving forward can get a 100% refund if you choose to cancel. That's how bad it is. That's how bad it is. Don't forget, Spirit is in bankruptcy. There's like 3 or 4 airlines, smaller airlines. Spirit's biggest of the group that filed for bankruptcy. FAA grounds 10% of all flights due to government shutdown. Airport chaos. So American Airlines Chief Operating Officer had a clear message for members of Congress while speaking on ABC's Good Morning America this morning. We need to get the government reopened. We need to get this aviation system back. I implore our members of Congress to get it together and get the government reopened so we can get back to normalcy. Aviation is super critical to this nation. It's super critical to our traveling public. American Airlines has 6,000 flights still operating today. The airline is working to ensure it provides the flexibility to reaccommodate those customers impacted by 400 cancellations. The airline will continue to abide by the FAA mandate. Don't forget, there's reports about backup tickets. The reports are coming out saying some flyers say they can't afford a backup ticket. Air travelers worried about getting stuck because of a flight cancellation are being advised to keep other options open, including by booking a refundable backup flight with another airline. But some say that's not an option. You don't have money to buy multiple flights for backup. Some people are now saying, I'm renting a car. I'm just going to rent a car and drive to my destination. I have to go so-and-so thousands of miles or hundreds of miles away to my location. I'll just rent a car. Another thing I also noticed a little bit too, but I'm going to look more into it, is the rental car prices. Demand for rental cars. Less people fly. Everyone's going to be going to the rental cars. It costs more to take one rental car to one location to another, opposed to dropping it off at the same location. Rental car prices could start going up, getting into hundreds of dollars a day just to rent a car that would be normally $30, $40, $50. You got to pay extra anyway to take it to the next location most of the time, right? One traveler from this airport just spoke to the media and said one traveler who arrived at Newark Liberty International Airport said early Friday that she'll be renting a car to get to Utah by Tuesday after her airline canceled and rebooked her trip in the middle of the night, causing her to miss the flight. Transportation Secretary on flight reductions. We are in an unprecedented situation due to the shutdown. We're hearing now from Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, who tied the FAA ordered flight cutbacks squarely on the government shutdown. If people want to question us, I'm not impressed with Duffy. I'll personally give you my opinion. I'm not impressed with Sean Duffy with this whole situation since he's been in play, because we've had numerous aviation accidents. And I'm not impressed with Sean Duffy. He might be the first one of these first heads to roll down the line. They might be using him as a scapegoat soon. Maybe not. Maybe the president has confidence in him. If people want to question us, I would throw it back at them. Open up the government. We have to take an unprecedented action because we are in an unprecedented situation with the shutdown. I see some comments. Things don't happen instantly, JLR. It's been happening. It's just the situation has just gotten worse. It's been happening before this 10% reduction. Look at the lines that have been forming at these airports in the last week before today's mandate. Before today's mandate, there was huge lines starting to form. There was cancellations. At one point, there were thousands of flights canceled each day around the country. Canceled flight, delayed, canceled. It's already been happening. And it's getting worse and worse and worse. So what the government is trying to do now is cut the reduction. Reduction. The reports are some people here in the airport have been waiting in line 2-3 hours. Duffy spoke, though. We got that press conference. He spoke about the matter. He spoke for like 15 minutes on the matter. Him and someone with the FAA spoke. They did like a 15-minute presser about what's going on, the latest. We could throw that up and we could play it and then come back here. Let's do that. Let's play Duffy. Let's play Duffy in the FAA.
I'm here with the administrator of the FAA, Brian Bedford. Appreciate him being here today. Appreciate all of the work that's taken place over the last days, weeks, in the month from the FAA and the FAA team. There are two issues we want to talk about today, and these are two very separate issues. Number one is the Louisville crash, the UPS airplane that went down yesterday. And then I also want to talk about air traffic controllers, the shutdown, and our staffing issues and the mitigation efforts that we've been deploying to make sure we keep the airspace safe. So first off, with regard to the crash last night, the NTSB gave a press conference earlier. There are a lot of videos online. A lot of theories have been deployed online based on what folks have seen. We are not in the business of theories. We don't speculate. We are going to wait for the facts to come out, and with those facts, we will present them to the American people, as well as with the NTSB. I'd also note the FAA has a ground team in conjunction with the NTSB, both of them are doing great work to get to the facts of what happened. I do want to extend my condolences to the families of those who lost loved ones in the crash. I did have an opportunity to speak with the union head of the UPS pilots, extended my condolences as well. He indicated that he was very good friends with the pilots on that aircraft. So condolences to the families. This issue, though, of the aircraft is very different than the second issue, which is air traffic controllers, which, by the way, this was not an air traffic control issue. It appears that it was a mechanical issue. Everyone's been clear on that. That is not speculation. Two very separate issues at play. In regard to air traffic control, we've had a conversation over the course of the last month about some of the challenges that we're having in the airspace. Many of you know that we are 2,000 controllers short, air traffic controllers short, and we have surged our academy to bring more controllers into our system. We are 20% up in controllers through the academy thus far this year. I've also offered air traffic controllers who are of the age of retirement a 20% upfront cash bonus to actually stay on. Some of the best controllers we have don't retire, keep working for us. All of that has been reducing the pressure on the staffing side of air traffic control. It's working, but it takes years to bring more well-trained certified controllers into the airspace. The shutdown is having an impact on our ability to maintain those numbers and dent that 2,000 shortage that we have. You also know we're modernizing the airspace. We have an old set of equipment that we use to control America's airspace. We have, though, the safest airspace in the world. And that's not because of the equipment, that's because of the well-trained air traffic controllers that we have operating the national airspace. We received $12.5 billion from the Congress in one big, beautiful bill. And we need a total of $31.5 billion to accomplish the mission of completely rebuilding America's airspace. The work has begun. We're transitioning our telecommunications. We're about to announce a project manager to do all of the work for this brand new system. But I want to talk about what's happening over the course of the last month with regard to the shutdown. Our air traffic controllers, and a lot of those who work at DOT, but throughout government, they haven't received paychecks. And many of these employees, they're the head of household. They have their spouse at home. They have a child or two or three. And when they lose income, they are confronted with real world difficulties in how they pay their bills. And so for air traffic controllers, they received a partial payment in early October. The second payment, they got a big fat zero, no paycheck at all. Tomorrow, they get a pay stub email on what their next paycheck is going to be. And when that pay stub comes out, that is also going to be zero. So they will have gone a month without any pay. And what we're finding is that our air traffic controllers, because of the financial pressures at home, are taking side jobs. They need to put food on the table, gas in the car, pay their bills. By the way, I do not want them to take side jobs. I want them to show up for work. We have asked them to show up for work, but I'm not naive to understand that they're trying to figure out how they meet their daily obligations. And so because of that, we have seen staffing pressures throughout our airspace. Those who travel will see that we've had more delays. We've had more cancellations. We do not want to see disruptions at the FAA or here at DOT. We don't want that. But our number one priority is to make sure when you travel safely. And that's why, as the administrator and I have been talking throughout the day, his team has been working for the last 24, 36, 48 hours crunching data. We're noticing that there's additional pressure that's building in the system. And again, our priority is to make sure that you're safe. And so we're going to talk about additional measures that we are going to take that's going to reduce the risk profile in the national airspace. And I'm going to turn it over to the administrator to do that as he walks through what that plan is going to look like, I anticipate there'll be additional disruptions. There'll be frustration. We are working with the airlines. They're going to work with passengers. But in the end, our sole role is to make sure that we keep this airspace as safe as possible. The administrator is going to talk about all of the tools we're going to deploy. One of them, though, is going to be that there is going to be a 10% reduction in capacity at 40 of our locations. The administrator is going to tell you that this is data-based. This is not based on what airline travels, has more flights out of what location. This is about where is the pressure and how do we alleviate the pressure. And so I want to thank him for, again, him and his team's great work. He'll lay out what the specifics are of this plan, and then we're happy to take questions from all of you. Brian Bedford.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Again, as the Secretary said, our primary mission at the FAA is to manage the airspace in the safest manner possible. That is our only focus. What we have been monitoring on a daily basis, frankly hourly basis, is looking at all of the metrics that we use to surveil the NAS and its health and its well-being. And for the most part, we're happy to report that it is running as efficiently today in terms of its safety metrics as it was prior to the lapse. But as we dig deeper into the data, what we find are issues of fatigue and that our flight controllers are experiencing. And we see that through voluntary safety disclosure reports coming in from commercial air transport pilots. That data has allowed us to focus not on the NAS as a whole, but on specific markets where we're seeing some of these reports come to us. And as we slice the data more granularly, we are seeing pressures build in a way that we don't feel will, if we allow it to go unchecked, will allow us to continue to tell the public that we operate the safest airline system in the world. And we're not going to react to that, and we intend to be proactive. So we're going to implement measures with our commercial airline industry partners, but this is going to go beyond commercial airspace. It's going to include restrictions on space launches, restrictions on VFR traffic in certain markets that have continued FAA controller staffing triggers, and a host of other countermeasures, if you will, that will give us the highest level of comfort that we're maintaining the safest aviation space in the world. And that's the mission. But we do recognize that the controllers have been working fastidiously for the last 5 weeks with this huge burden over their head of lack of compensation. And we are starting to see some evidence that that fatigue is building in the system in ways that we feel we need to work towards relieving some of that pressure. So again, as the Secretary said, we've identified 40 high traffic environment markets. We'll be happy to share that later. We have decided that a 10% reduction in scheduled capacity would be appropriate to, again, continue to take the pressure off of our controllers. And as we continue to see staffing triggers, there will be additional measures that will be taken in those specific markets. Again, I think it's a holistic plan. I really appreciate the men and women at the FAA who have been working this situation from the get-go. I want to applaud the controllers who continue to come to work on a daily basis, keeping our system safe. But I also want to recognize the fact that the data is telling us we need to do more, and we are going to do more. And I want to reassure the American travelers that it is absolutely safe to fly in the American skies. So with that, I'd be happy to turn it over to you, Mr. Secretary, and/or take any questions that you have.
Yeah, I want to reiterate, this is proactive. We don't want to find ourselves in a situation, I think the administrator said, we don't want the horse out of the barn and then look back and say there were issues we could have taken that we didn't. So we are going to proactively make decisions that keep the airspace safe. With that, we're happy to take any questions you may have.
Dave Shepard, so just to confirm, those restrictions start Friday, is that correct?
Those are going to start Friday morning.
And how are you going to apportion those among the airports, the airlines? Is this something the airlines have to do, come up with their own 10%?
And I'll let Brian address that, but again, it's going to be based on the locations, the 40 locations that we feel the pressure, and how that's going to be implemented. Brian, I'll let you answer that.
Yes, well, we'll be meeting with the airline community this evening to talk about how we'll move to implementation. We want to do this in an organized way. We want to make sure that planes get where they need to go for maintenance and crew crews get to where they need to be as we start to implement this drawdown in service, but it will be restricted to these 40 high volume traffic markets. We're going to ask the airlines to work with us collaboratively to reduce their schedules pro rata through the day. So we're going to look for a ratable reduction across these 40 markets over the next 48 hours.
So back of the envelope, that's 4,000, 3,500, 4,000 flights, and that's a significant number. And how do you think the airspace or the system is going to handle that dramatic reduction in such a short period of time?
Well, again, we're trying to lean into the fact that when we see pressures building in these 40 markets, we just can't ignore it, and we're not going to wait for a safety problem to truly manifest itself when the early indicators are telling us we can take action today to prevent, things from deteriorating. So the system is extremely safe today. It will be extremely safe tomorrow. And if the pressures continue to build even after we take these measures, we'll come back and take additional measures. So again, we're trying to be prescriptive, surgical, put the relief where the relief will do the most good. But again, we are not going to do anything that will compromise the safety of air transport in the United States.
Mr. Secretary?
Thank you. Grady Trimble with Fox Business. I'm wondering, in the same vein as David's question, is there a plan to make sure that one airline isn't disproportionately affected, or one route or city or multiple cities aren't disproportionately affected by this? And to your knowledge, when was the last time this type of thing happened, and how did it go?
Well, I'm not aware in my 35-year history in the aviation market where we've had a situation where we're taking these kind of measures. Then again, we're in new territory in terms of government shutdowns. Also, I think we've learned things through the mishap, the tragic accident with DCA and PSA 5342. So our surveillance on the NAS is much different today than it was even a year ago. The data that we're looking at is much different and more granular today than it was a year ago, and we simply aren't going to ignore that. So again, I think it is unusual, just as the shutdown is unusual, just on the fact that our controllers haven't been paid for a month is unusual. These are unusual times, and we look forward to a time when we can get back to business as usual.
And how do you apply it proportionately to each airline, or is that not part of the plan?
No, it will be proportionate. We'll be working through that with the airlines this evening as we start to roll this out. Recognizing there will be no perfect solution. There are some airlines that operate less than daily service, so how do you reduce 10% of one? We will work through those issues. We certainly don't want to disrupt service availability in individual city pairs, so we will take all of those factors into consideration.
Just one other point on the controllers, I think, compared to other shutdowns, our controllers, again, though we are not full staffed, I've laid that out. I think the performance of our controllers showing up for work compared to other shutdowns, I'm proud of them. Many of them have showed up. But to the administrator's point, many of the same ones who show up continue to show up. Some of those who don't show up continue to not show up, which means we have those who come to work. They're working longer hours, they're working more days, and that's some of the pressure that we're seeing on them, and we want to alleviate that pressure before it would become an issue.
And Mr. Secretary.
Mr. Secretary, realistically, for the American people that are watching this right now, what will this mean practically for air travel? Is this going to lead to more flight delays, more cancellations?
Well, I think it's going to lead to more cancellations. We're going to work with the airlines to do this in a systematic way. And again, we had a conversation about that. I'm concerned about disrupting people's travel. We're coming into a weekend. That doesn't, listen, I travel a lot. We are concerned about that. But we had to have a gut check of what is our job. Is it to make sure there's minimal delays or minimal cancellations, or is our job to make sure we make the hard decisions to continue to keep the airspace safe? That is our job, is safety. And so again, when we see pressure, we are going to get ahead of it and make sure that you get to where you're going, point A to point B. And
how long will these restrictions stay in place until the government reopens? And are you any closer to closing parts of the U.S. airspace?
So we're going to, and the FAA and the administrator are going to continue to do this, and with me as well.
Until we see the metrics start to move in the right direction.
We are going to use data. The data will dictate what we do. Again, if the data goes in the wrong direction, could you see additional restrictions? Yes. If the data goes in the right direction, we will roll this back, but it's going to be data-driven, safety-driven. Yes?
CBS News. a couple questions if I could. First is you mentioned additional measures on top of this. What are those additional measures? And secondly, what happened today or maybe even changed between yesterday when we last were speaking of this that prompted this decision today?
So the additional measures were the launches that we are going to guardrail into certain times of the day. Launches can be very disruptive to the airspace. They take a lot more attention from controllers. VFR travel, and there was one more that you were.
So, well, I'm going to try to address both questions. So what happened today, what's special about today versus yesterday? The data we've been looking at is the data that we managed the NAS, whether we were in a shutdown or we're not. We're always looking at the overall health and safety of the NAS, whether we have any critical hotspots, right? These are changes that were implemented post PSA 5342 under the Secretary's leadership. So I'm grateful that that's there, and the team of men and women at the FAA work hard managing this data, and we're leaning, it's not reactive now, it's proactive. And that's the difference. We're not going to wait until we see something flashing red to say, oh, we should take action now. We want to keep everything in the green. We want to keep all the safety measures within the guardrails that we have that define the safest system of airspace in the world. And these actions, we believe, are sufficient to allow us to continue to keep the safety metrics within the appropriate levels that we want, which is perfect safety. So yes, it's leaning into it. It's anticipating that if the pressures continue to build through the shutdown, additional measures will be necessary. We're going to go ahead and implement those measures proactively, and we'll continue to measure the safety and health of the NAS. Yes.
Yeah, Chase Williams, Fox Business. I know David kind of alluded to it, but 10% is not an insignificant number. Did you guys think about starting at maybe a lesser point, such as 5% capacity, or maybe even talk about, maybe a bigger number, such as 15 or 20?
I can tell you a whole panoply of options were evaluated. There's no perfect science here, so it's really trying to look at where the potential pressure points are building, what we're seeing in terms of safety disclosure reporting from our commercial air transport pilots. That's informing us. And then as we get into the granular details on these 40 individual markets, we felt like this was the appropriate next step. That doesn't mean that we won't come in and surgically do more if more is required, or if we see maybe we've overcorrected, we can certainly take some of the mitigation out.
But again, we thought 10% was the right number based on the pressure that we were seeing. Yes?
Because I'll look at Politico. Can you speak a little more to the 40 markets? Are they the busiest markets, or is there some other metric you're using to determine which ones they are?
So,
are you going to release the names?
Yes, I'll let Brian give the specifics.
Yes, of course. We'd like to brief our aviation users with more of these specifics. But yes, we will publish the markets that will be affected, and of course, airlines will be publishing to their customers their implementation of these processes. Again, I just want to be clear that.
So when are you going to release the names of the markets?
They'll be released tomorrow. What I want to be clear on, though, is the NAS is safe. These are proactive measures that we're taking to ensure that we can guarantee the American public that the NAS is operating at the highest levels of safety. And so we can debate on whether it should have been 8, 9, 10, or 12%, but this is the point where we're going to start.
Hypothetically, if the shutdown were to end tomorrow, would these restrictions still go into place Friday, or is this?
I think what we're going to want to see is a return to controller performance that's at levels that we were experiencing prior to the shutdown. We're going.
What about how does it affect cargo carriers, international flights, and GA traffic? Are there any restrictions in any of those?
So it'll apply to all IFR users, and if there are staffing triggers in selected markets, it will apply to VFR traffic as well.
Are you going to protect international flights or no?
I have to tell you, we haven't talked through the international component yet.
Is there a concern about the economics also? Because, obviously airlines carry a lot of cargo. Is there any concern as we move forward into this what the economic impacts of this could be?
Well, I'll leave the economics to the Secretary, but as far as the FAA is concerned, that's not our interest. Our interest is only in maintaining the health and safety of the NAS, full stop.
Listen, there are a lot of equities at play, and we think about all of those equities, but the number one is safety. And so again, am I concerned about cargo? Yes. Am I concerned about disruption in the airspace on Friday? Yes. But again, we want to make sure we are doing the right measures, implementing the right measures to make sure we have the best outcomes. We've talked to a number of the different airlines. Again, would they be pleased that there's a 10% reduction? Probably not. But are they supportive that we are working overtime to make sure the airspace is safe? Yes. And we will team up and partner with them and make sure that they have enough time to, as best as they can, minimize the disruption to the airspace. To the administrator's point, because it's data driven, if there was a deal today and the government's going to open tomorrow, which by the way, I've spent time in Congress, that's not the way it works. This will be data driven. We get controllers back in facilities and we get staff back up, we will make those decisions as the data drives us. I imagine though, when we do open and we do get pay flowing and we do get controllers back in, there'll be a correlation between those events. Again, this was not taken lightly. There was a lot of effort put into this. And if you remember with the DCA air crash, a lot of you asked us questions. Why didn't the FAA see that there were near misses in the airspace? And why didn't you stop the cross traffic with helicopters and airplanes? And I think that was a great question. We learned from that. And so now we look at data, and before it would become an issue, we try to assess the pressure and try to make moves before there could be adverse consequences. And that's what's happening here today. It's level setting with the American people, doing the right thing by way of the American people, working with the airlines, and our heart, goes out to those who will have flights disrupted. But again, they want to make sure that the FAA team and their DOT team, when they fly, they are going to make it to their destination safely because we've done our work. We are doing our work, and this is what we feel like we have to do to make sure we maintain that safety profile. One last one.
What would you say to people who are frustrated this weekend? They might have a flight canceled or delayed. What would you tell them? Anyone who has my cell phone number, I'm called based on delays and cancellations. There is frustration, and I hear them. But I used to sit in Congress. I don't have any say or any role in what the Congress does with regard to funding. I've continually asked our controllers to come to work. I've thanked those who have come in and done the great work by way of the American people, and there's been a lot of them. Again, I've met a lot of family men and women who are single income families, and they're coming to work because they're patriotic Americans. If I can make one last note, though, and I mentioned this before, many of the controllers said they can survive without one paycheck. They can do that. They put a little money away. They have a little nest egg. They have a rainy day fund if the car breaks down or there's an unexpected expense. They can navigate losing one paycheck. They said almost all of them, virtually all of them, cannot navigate financially missing two paychecks. And so we see that on the horizon. We need to take action today. But if it gets worse, if we have more issues with our controllers, we will analyze the data and we'll take additional steps. And again, we don't want to see, if you've seen, we have worked overtime to minimize disruptions as much as possible. And some days there's more delays, some days are less delays based on how many controllers are coming to work. We will drive these decisions based on the data that we receive and make the best calls that we can to keep those who travel through the airspace safe. One last one, Grady, and then we're really going to go.
I got you. Can you just tell us some of the cities that are going to be impacted by this so that people who have travel plans Friday can make an impact?
We want to be fair to the airlines. Again, they've been good partners. They understand what we're doing. I think we need to talk to the airlines first so they can set up their schedules, their flights, to make sure they're prepared to navigate with their customers as we come into the weekend. So I don't want to do that right now. I think it'd be fair to them and to the customers who are going to travel to make sure they're ready to try to deal with a 10% reduction.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you guys, appreciate it.
All right, so this was just prior to the FAA's new implemented new mandates that are in effect starting this morning. 10% of 40 airports affected here. We'll take you back to the live scene. Go back to Liberty Airport. We're going back to Liberty Airport, folks, to share what's going on here. Stand with me. Crazy stuff. So Liberty Airport and the airports all around the country, lines expected. Now, I'm seeing some reports that it's going to affect literally 3 to 4% of the flights. 3% or 4% of the overall flights around the country. 3 to 4%, 10% of 40 airports. But they're saying that as people are coming into the chat, they're saying that, you know, by next week, by the 14th of November, if this government shutdown continues, you're looking at about 4,200 flights per day canceled around the country. That is a lot, considering that we're ready to bump into Thanksgiving and Christmas. New York Times reports by 6 a.m. This morning, there were 3% of flights departing from U.S. airports have been canceled. Not surprisingly, the carriers with the most cancellations on Friday are the three biggest: American Airlines, United, and Delta. All right, we're going to switch to O'Hare. We got O'Hare. We got a live feed at O'Hare. So we're going to see what's going on at O'Hare here. They got different feeds up at different airports. I believe it's O'Hare, so we'll go and see. We'll evaluate this more. There are feeds up all around the country with these at these airports. Boom. A lot of these airports, people, before they even got into the areas where they, go to their flights, they have to go through TSA. They've been waiting average 2 to 3 hours just to get in to the terminals because of the TSA. This is pretty bad. As of right now, probably about 2,000 flights are going to be canceled each day. 18 to 2,000 flights canceled each day. And by November 14th, could go up to 4,200 flights. So, and then if the government shutdown continues, and the situation might even get worse. Might get worse. A lot of airports are affected here. Tampa, Orlando, Miami, Houston, Dallas, Memphis, Atlanta, Charlotte, Louisville, Indianapolis, Chicago, Detroit, Washington, D.C., both New York airports, Philadelphia, Boston, Salt Lake City, Denver, Phoenix, Las Vegas, Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego. Frontier Airlines chief executive Barry Biffle wrote on social media yesterday that if passengers have somewhere they need to be in the next coming days, like a funeral or a wedding, they should consider buying a backup ticket that is refundable or changeable on a different carrier. Carriers like Frontier will be putting you on the next available flight, but that may not be until after your event due to the scale of the disruption. So some of these CEOs of these airlines are telling people to buy a backup ticket that is refundable or changeable. That's crazy. Pretty crazy. Delta Airlines says it expects to operate vast majorities of its flights as scheduled, including all long-haul international flights. But they are expected to have some cancellations, they say. United Airlines CEO Scott Kirby promised refunds to customers who did not want to fly during restrictions on flights imposed by U.S. transportation officials that are set to begin today. Kirby wrote that any customer is eligible for a refund while the reductions are in effect, even if their flight isn't impacted. That's what we were talking about. United Airlines is offering refunds. Airlines don't do that. You don't do it like that. Southwest Airlines, I'm giving you an assessment on kind of like each of the airlines. Southwest Airlines says it's evaluating how the flight restrictions will affect our schedule and will continue to communicate directly with customers as soon as possible. Nothing is more important to Southwest than the safety of our customers and employees. We continue to urge Congress to immediately resolve its impasse and restore the national airspace system to its full capacity. American Airlines told USA Today that flights on November 6th will operate as planned and are waiting for the FAA to provide additional information to determine which flights will be impacted. We expect the vast majority of our customers' travel will be unaffected, American Airlines said. We will proactively reach out to customers who are impacted. As always, we encourage all customers to check their flight status on AA.com or the mobile app. In the meantime, we continue to urge leaders in Washington to reach an immediate resolution at the end of the shutdown. That's one thing I've noticed about all these CEOs and airlines. They're throwing it back at leaders in Washington. We urge them to reach a resolution. Don't forget, there's also weather-related issues around this country, staff shortages. The FAA now mandate 10%, 40 airports, and who knows, other types of chaos that could happen. Who knows? One of the reports, we got a report here that just came out. They're calling it airport chaos. Airport chaos. I'm going to play this report right here to keep you all informed.
Judge ordered the White House to fully pay for federal food assistance and gave a deadline of today. The judge also accused the Trump administration of defying his last order to restart payments and said it's, quote, simply unacceptable, end quote, to wait any longer. At an event last night, Vice President Vance called that ruling absurd. Senate Republicans have a plan to try and end the government shutdown. Sources telling CBS News there could be a vote today on an amended funding package. And under this plan, GOP lawmakers would promise to hold a vote on extending health care subsidies. That's been a major sticking point for Democrats, and this would need 60 votes to pass. And air travelers are getting ready for a tough time getting to where they want to be over the weekend. The FAA is cutting flights starting today because of the government shutdown and related air traffic controller shortages. Last night on The Takeout, Major Garrett spoke to the head of the Air Traffic Controllers Union about how his members are struggling.
It's not like you can just go and I'll tough it out today. They have to be ready to ensure the safety of the flying public. So every day that this drags on, it's introducing new problems because these are real people with real lives, and every American can empathize with. If you don't pay anybody, there's going to be issues ahead.
CBS News senior transportation correspondent Chris Van Cleve joins us now from Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport. This is one of the 40 airports being impacted. Chris, good morning. So we know there's pain ahead. How much is being felt this morning?
Well, you'll see about 1,000 cancellations today across the country at these 40 high-volume airports, many of them the busiest in the country because of this FAA order. The airlines were told basically to bring down 4% of their flying from those airports. That works out to about 1,000 flights. That will ramp up into next week to 6% and then 8%, ultimately hitting 10% by the end of next week, going into next weekend. So it will be a phased-in impact to flyers. You know, here at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport, there were 5 or 6 cancellations this morning. There'll be more throughout the day, obviously, and mostly regional flights or flights where an airline maybe goes there 5 or 6 times a day, so they drop one out and reaccommodate people on the flights earlier and a little bit later. But, you know, for some people, that couple-hour change could be a deal breaker on a trip or a tight connection, and so there will be some people that likely don't travel because of this. Others, they're maybe going to get there late or they're going to be on an earlier flight.
And
Errol, we did hear from the Secretary of Transportation today on CBS Mornings. I believe we have a little bit from him as to what prompted this action.
My job is to be preemptive, to take preemptive action based on the data, which is what we've done. We'll share the data later with the airlines, with the Congress, but right now it's about making the right decisions at the right time to keep people safe. We have to take unprecedented action is because we are in an unprecedented situation with a shutdown.
And the Secretary says that data showed that controllers were under pressure, that they were stressed, their workload was up, and that they were fatigued. So they decided to bring down the volume of flights to reduce some of that workload, take some of the pressure off of the controllers who are working without pay and amid a surge in sick calls. So their workloads have gone up.
yeah, as frustrating as it is all about safety. So for people whose flights may be impacted, what's some of the best advice you can give them? How are airlines trying to help?
So airlines were able to make their cancellations for today yesterday. United Airlines told us they went ahead and canceled Friday, Saturday, Sunday flights yesterday. So flyers should have gotten emails, push alerts, notifications from the airlines that their flights were canceled and here's your rebooking options. So the goal was so that people didn't show up here at the airport this morning and discover their flight was canceled. I was looking at booking a flight actually last night, and as I was going through the process of booking it, like the seats all started disappearing, and it was because they had canceled one of the other flights to that city today and moved people onto the flight that I was looking at booking. So I'm not taking that flight because the flight's full.
Right. I mean, the stress of while you book, watching those seats disappear, I can certainly relate with. If Chris Van Cleve can't get around the country, things are tough. KVC, thank you very much. Safe
I should have made the
travels
decision earlier, Errol.
if you could have only predicted the news, Chris. Thanks so much. Great to see you.
Airport chaos. That was the title of that report there. Airport chaos. Paul Youngs, thank you. Esquire, thank you very much for the gifted membership. One lucky member, courtesy of Paul Youngs, Esquire. Whew. So the numbers are a little, it's strange because a lot of these reports are putting out all types of numbers, 3%, 4% to start, and eventually goes to 6, then 10. Others are putting 1,000 flights canceled today. Others are putting 2,000. Others are putting out eventually next week up to 4,200. So, we don't know where the actual real numbers is, but it's definitely people are being affected here. And you got 10% that they clearly said out of their mouths, the FAA with Duffy, Transportation Secretary, FAA chief there, 40 airports are going to be affected here. So we will continue to monitor the situation. And, this is going to get really bad, I think it's going to get really bad because I don't even see, unless they come up with some emergency funding to start funding air traffic. You get some air traffic control, federal judge ordered food stamps, funding for food stamps. Why can't a federal judge order funding for FAA workers, right? Or air traffic controllers? Everyone says Congress when urging them to end the shutdown. Let's be clear. The House of Representatives has already voted on the CR and it passed. Dems in the Senate are voting no on the CR. Thank you, Susan Cornwell. Thank you for the comment. We pinned that to the screen. But you do have a federal judge that ordered the government to issue food stamps. So why can't there be a federal judge to order TSA and air traffic control people to be funded some way, somehow? Is there a reserve fund? But then some people are like, the federal judges don't even have any authority to do that. The Trump administration said last night at a dinner, the federal judges have no authority to order funds to be distributed during a government shutdown. But it seems like federal judge did it with the food stamps. Well, can't you do it here? You can't do it here because this is going to affect a lot of people, just not only with the travel, but goods and services, goods being shipped, products being shipped, medicines, important products. So it's gonna be pretty crazy here, folks. I really do. It looks calm here. The lines were like crazy just the other day in Houston. I don't know what the lines are outside of the air. I'm tempted to go down to Tampa International Airport and go check it out myself to see what's up. Because Tampa is one of the 40 airports affected here. Crazy. Very, very crazy. Let me see what else is popping up on this topic. This is a live look. JetBlue, Alaska, American Airlines. Going to be a lot of mad travelers. A lot of mad travelers out there. All right, CNN just put out 4 minutes ago, delays reported across the country as staffing problems increase amid FAA mandated cuts to flights. Delays were reported early this morning at Newark Liberty International Airport, Ronald Reagan Washington Airport, and Austin Bergstrom International Airport. 45-minute delays were reported for Newark-bound flights. The control tower at the New Jersey airport will not have its normal number of workers until 2 p.m., the FAA said in its operation plan. The TRACON facility handling flights approaching and departing Newark is also short-staffed until noon. The airport has seen staffing shortages nearly every day of the shutdown and has reported more than any other facility. The control tower at Washington's Reagan National Airport is short-staffed until 2 p.m. today, and the FAA is currently reporting average delays of 45 minutes at Washington Reagan's National Airport. The control tower at New Orleans International Airport is also short-staffed until 2 p.m. Flights headed to Austin, Texas were also delayed by about 45 minutes. Air traffic controllers were also briefly understaffed at Ontario International Airport, that's outside LA, early this morning. And then Boston Air Route Traffic Control Center, which handles flights, is understaffed until 11 a.m. this morning. Since the start of the shutdown, flights have historically been one of the worst days for air traffic controller staffing. Duffy says flight cuts motivated by safety, but exact number not a science. Here's another report that came out. Look at all these people coming. Where are all these people going? There's lots of people. We'll keep this up for a bit. When government reopens, travel will not bounce back right away, Transportation Secretary says. So we reached a situation, and again, we're coming into Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving just in a few weeks. What about people who have to fly to attend funerals, weddings, court hearings, business meetings? What happens to all these people that have to fly for important events, vacations that were planned before the government shutdown? Maybe it's all by design to keep people home. I'll never forget COVID. When COVID happened, you literally could go anywhere you want around this country, dirt cheap. Dirt cheap. I remember when COVID happened, and for 6 months after, spring of 2020, for 6 months, even into the winter, you could fly anywhere for $50 one way, anywhere. Rental cars were like $20 a day. This situation is totally backwards, opposite. Flights now are like becoming $500 one way. Rental car prices seem to be going up, but we'll look more into that. Flights being canceled, people being stuck. Get in your vehicle. Get in a vehicle. $50 won't buy you anything now. Nothing. You can't get a $50 flight. is some people have reward points and everything like that. Those points, you don't get much on those points anymore, on those flights, on airline points. You don't really get points anymore. The point, what I'm saying is you get points, but the points don't get you anywhere anymore. You have to accumulate 500,000 points just to get a round trip. Seriously. You ever see points? Most of these things, most of these flights are like 75,000 now, just on one way, on a point, on points. Hotel rooms might go higher. I don't know anything about the hotel rooms. I have to look more about that. I can't speak on that, but you would think that would also be affected too. We'll see. People say cash in your points. Cash in your points. Can you cash in your points? When government reopens, travel will not bounce back right away. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says, when the government reopens, flights will not go back to normal immediately, depending on if controllers show up to work. If the government opens on day one, while I see an immediate response from controllers, no. The union is telling me it's going to take time to get them all back. So we might even cross the time where even if the government shutdown and reopens, which I doubt, at least in the foreseeable future, it might take weeks before everything gets back to normal. There's a high level of fatigue with the controls because they've been doing this for a long time. And as you try to mitigate the impact of the shutdown, the National Air Traffic Controllers Association, which represents the country's air traffic controllers who are not collecting paychecks during the shutdown, has discouraged controllers from not showing up to work. However, many controllers have taken second jobs to make ends meet. Some are coming to work without getting paid. Some air traffic controllers have been working now for what, 5-6 weeks? 5 weeks without being paid. So they go every day. What about at home? If they're the prime person that's working, they got a wife at home raising kids, and they're the person, they're not even getting paid. What are they living off credit card debt? How are they living here? How are they paying their bills? And they'll definitely be compensated for the time, probably rewarded in a sense if this government shutdown. The ones that came to work will probably get pay and a half or something like that. They'll compensate them for their inconvenience. So maybe that's why some are coming, or as Sean Duffy called them, patriots. DOT secretary calls on Democrats to stay in D.C. to end the shutdown and flight cuts. The transportation secretary says only an end to the government shutdown can avoid future cancellation of flights, and put the blame on the Democrats. If Democrats are going to go home this weekend and they've kept the government shut down, that's shameful, Duffy told reporters while exiting Ronald Reagan International Airport this morning. Some Democrats, including the ranking member of the House Transportation Committee, has criticized the order to reduce domestic flights, which started today at 4% and will rise to 10% next week, saying the secretary has not provided enough specifics on the safety need. As people can't get home, the Senate goes home. That's what Duffy said. Duffy said, as people can't get home, the Senate gets to go home. They should be here every day, even on weekends, every week, trying to find a deal so we can open the government back up. Again, folks, this government shutdown has caused serious finger pointing on both sides. Everyone's pointing fingers. Your fault, your fault, your fault. It's your fault. It's your fault. It's your fault. It's your fault. But what has happened? It's now affecting us, the American people. It's not good for the American people. Or is it? Now, some people don't fly at all, and they don't care, and they're kind of laughing. Some people are probably laughing at this. There's probably people out there that don't fly, don't go out, don't never travel and stuff and laughing at this. There's some people here that want this thing to cripple, self-destruct. Now, I was Googling around a little bit about the government shutdown. Would it cripple the economy? Does the government shutdown cripple the $1 trillion a year economy? Does it? Will the government shutdown cripple the economy? If you do, it says, while a government shutdown is disruptive and imposed real costs, it is unlikely to cripple the overall economy unless it is prolonged or involves permanent federal worker layoffs. Historically, and we're in unprecedented times though, historically shutdowns have had only a minor temporary impact on the broader economy, with most lost economic activity eventually recovered. So there you go there. Well, how does, if the airports are, if people can't go home, how does Congress go home? Do they got their own private planes or what? They have to go on regular flights too, right? This is the longest government shutdown in history, folks. And it doesn't appear it doesn't appear there's an end in sight. No end in sight, end in sight. What do we got? Is it going to end? Maybe the politicians could stop pointing fingers and start trying to be the solution. We're here to inform you what's going on. Because people might be going on their phones and going on to Expedia and Priceline and start, booking a flight in the next couple of weeks for Thanksgiving to see their loved ones or Christmas, saying, hey, I want to book a trip. But you got to be very mindful right now of this situation. One, you're probably going to pay more for the flight as it is. And two, even when you play high for the flight, you might not get on your flight. Your flight might be canceled when you eventually go on your trip. Some people might just not be aware that, they're aware of the government shutdown, but not aware about the airport impacts here. Government shutdown, Peggy says, government shutdown causing chaos as planned. The report that we just had called it straight up airport chaos. It's chaos. They let the media, I guess, go in there and do their filming. I'm just going to see if I can find additional information. But we are looking at the airports here. I think we covered a lot here about what's going on. I'm keep checking in to see these Bush Airport to see if the lines are growing outside the airport. I don't see anything on that. Yeah, but buckle up, folks. Buckle up. I think it's going to get much, much worse. And we'll stay with this story for sure. But if you just do a basic Google search right now, a lot of the news reports are coming up with local reports based off their own airports, wherever the media is based out of. So, all of you watch from around the world. This is not just one location. Many of you are from all around the United States. Just pay attention. FlightAware says Newark Liberty Airport is currently experiencing 31 to 45-minute delays. All right, so FlightAware is talking about delays in many airports around the country. In Austin is currently experiencing inbound flight delays at their origin, averaging 47 minutes. Don't forget connecting flights, folks. These people are going to miss their connecting flights. Because sometimes, I never personally like flying when I'm booking and when there's a connecting flight, connecting with like 15 minutes to spare. I get very nervous on those connecting when they tell you when you book and they tell you, well, you're going to be at the next airport for only 15 minutes before. That scares me because you get right there, right? You get right there. And then you got to wait for the next one. But some of these people probably booked before, and usually airports try to get you on your connecting flight within 30 minutes of arriving, right? But some are there for an hour or two. Sometimes you're there for an hour or two, and when you book. But right now in Austin, inbound flights on average are 47-minute delays. Hollywood Burbank Airport, 41-minute. Reagan, 35 minutes. Newark Liberty Airport, 31 to 45 minutes. Teterboro is experiencing delays right now of 46 minutes to an hour. Right now. Tokyo International Airport, 40 minutes. We're going international now. So according to FlightAware, right now there is 1,289 flight delays. Right now, 1,289 flight delays today. And again, the numbers are saying by next week, it could go to 4,000 flights a day. Crazy. So it's tough times ahead. Yeah, many of the airports right now, I'm looking here on FlightAware, many of the airports right now, 40, 50-minute inbound delays. It started today because of the flight reduction. Really, it's like Washington, D.C., New York City area. So today they're saying, according to flight cancellation data, today alone has had more flight delays than any other day since the shutdown. Just today because of this. Cancellations, delays, a couple of times for cancellations. Cancellations. Today it's had the most cancellations since the government shutdown. Now, towards the end of October, as far as delays, there has been thousands of delays at the end of October. Whew. It's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. There's no way to cut around it. We are in unprecedented times, ladies and gentlemen. buckle up. Let's see if there's any other airport feeds at different locations. The AP one went down. It seems like this is the last one up. Oh, Reuters. Oh, look at this. They switched it. Ooh, woo. Flight's taking off. Some of the airports got Christmas trees already in there. All right, blowing myself up here. I don't see any more action going on, but we're going to definitely stay with this story. Folks, plan ahead. We'll continue to monitor, and if it gets crazy at these airports, like do another feed with long lines, we'll come back and I'll follow up with more information that's being put out there. Whew, crazy times, folks. Government shutdown continues. We'll continue to monitor, and let's hope this doesn't turn into criminal stuff. All right, we cover what's going on around the country 24/7, 365. Thanks for watching, everyone. We will talk soon. JLR investigates, Magnolia investigates. Stay tuned, everyone.